Hi guys, and welcome to my 70-second video. Thank you so much for joining me if you are a return subscriber, or hello if you are new. My name's Adrina, I'm an Australian teacher and mum, currently on a break at the moment, trying to figure out this whole Teacherpreneur online space, selling my teaching resources and clip art on Teachers Pay Teachers and online. Today's video is a pretty special one because we are going to be talking about the topic of imposter syndrome. Oh my goodness. So imposter syndrome is a syndrome, I suppose, that affects a lot of people in a lot of different areas of life, and it can be different in different stages. So imposter syndrome, basically, if you've never heard of this term, is basically you feel inadequate, you feel like a fraud, you feel unqualified, you feel unworthy, basically just feeling like a fraud or an imposter sitting amongst the crowd. So a lot of people experience imposter syndrome, and I have personally also experienced it myself. So I thought I would put together this little video to kind of just help and encourage anyone with just some mindset shifts that I've used to help me overcome or tackle imposter syndrome. So just a disclaimer, I am not a mindset coach. I am not a psychologist or a therapist or anything like that. I just want to offer some advice that I feel like has worked and helped me kind of get out of that funk of when I feel like I'm getting or have got imposter syndrome. So to get started, I personally think of imposter syndrome as like this big blue blob that just overcomes you from time to time. And it can happen when you start a project, while you're currently in a project, or while you're looking around and observing the world as well. So I feel like there's three stages that I've kind of experienced personally, and again, this is just from my own personal experience. But the first stage is basically beginner imposter syndrome. This is where it basically cripples you to even get started, and it prevents you from starting. Second is the why me imposter syndrome, where you basically question, why me? Why am I the one that should be doing this? Why am I getting these things and no one else is? And just like feeling unworthy of your accomplishments. That's like the why me imposter syndrome. And that also affects your ability of receiving. And the third one is comparison imposter syndrome, which basically stops you in your tracks because you feel like you've seen that someone's done it bigger and better than you before, and so you don't even bother even trialing or attempting something because the imposter syndrome from comparing just debilitates you. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the first one I mentioned, the beginner imposter syndrome. So this is more targeted to people in that beginning phase that are wanting to start a clip art store, but they're just kind of shaking in their boots, wondering, you know, are they good enough? Can they do this? And just have wanted to do it, but just haven't gotten the courage to. So I want to start with a little story first, and basically it's about my channel and also Tealazzo Clipart as the TPT store. Now, first of all, I just want to say, by no means am I in a financial spot where I can make a full-time living off this. However, I am in a spot where I have worked up to it and I'm earning money off it now, like at least every month, and that is something that has been amazing to me. But when I rewind back to me when I first started this journey, I'll have to kind of take it back a little bit to when I started my very first store, the Creative Table. I uploaded some clip art, which I made, by the way, I think in PowerPoint at that time, or Paint or something like that. It wasn't very good quality. It was kind of CRAPPY, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, some people found value in it, so that was amazing. However, I look at it now and I'm like, oh my goodness, like why did people even download that? But mind you, I put my 10 free things up technically in 2017. And then I left it because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just like, I got distracted by full-time work and I just didn't look at it again. And anyway, so then in 2020, when I picked up the Creative Table again and tried to take it, I guess, more seriously, I again started with the clip art thing, and then I moved on to resources in that store. So I learned a few things doing that, and of course I made some sales through that, which kind of gave me a little bit of courage. But what I really wanted to do was branch out to create a new store which was just targeted at clip art. Now, in the process of that, moving from one store to go to two, I experienced imposter syndrome, thinking, oh my goodness, like, will anyone even buy my clip art? Is my clip art good enough? Like, I just felt kind of almost debilitated to, even though I already had a store, to kind of start another one and to make it truly more like my own. I knew I wanted to do it, but I almost stopped myself from doing that because I just wasn't sure if it was going to work out. And so I felt like when I would look on TPT and look at like other clip art stores, other big clip artists out there, I would see their work and I would be like, wow, they're so cute, they're so lovely, they're so cohesive, they're just way different to my style, and I love it, but it's not me. And so I just didn't know whether my kind of stuff would be even sellable. So I used what I'm going to be talking about in this video, some mind shifts, to help me get out of that kind of rut, to basically continue on and to give it a go and just see where things would go. I know that in my head I almost debated not doing it, but I did think if I trial it out, then I'm going to just do my best to see if at least one person buys something from my store, my new store, the Tealazzo clip art store. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to really try and make something of it. And so I obviously did that, and now a few years later I am at a point where I guess it's my side hustle kind of thing, but I'm trying to scale it up as well. But what I guess I'm trying to say for all beginners that are wanting to sell their clip art is it does take a lot of mental strength to be able to also put yourself out there. And I just want to kind of help with some of those mindset shifts if you're facing right now this imposter syndrome, just feeling like you can't do it, or feeling like, is your work good enough, questioning those things. So I'm going to give you just some of my mindset shifts that I kind of think about and have used throughout the years, and hopefully you might find some value out of it. So first of all, if you have made it to this video, this is a message, or you can take it as a sign. This is your sign to say it's time to kick imposter syndrome to the curb. I'm going to help you reframe your perspective in a little different way through this video, so I hope it might help you cross that line to be like, let me get started, let me not let imposter syndrome hold me back, and let's do this. First of all, when you are in this beginning stage of imposter syndrome, you might be questioning like, is your work good enough? You might be thinking like, who am I to do this? Who am I to create clip art? You know, you might feel like, I'm not qualified for this. I love to draw, but you know, I don't have any background, degree, anything in creating clip art online. You might be saying things like, oh, I'd like to do that, but I'm just not good enough. Or you might be wondering, will anyone even buy my clip artwork? You know, that is a very common question. That's a question that it came in my head over and over and over again. And for me, when I was facing those kind of questions in that beginning phase of imposter syndrome, I kind of did two to three things. These are things that I guess you can take practically when you're thinking about how you're going to go about your clip art journey, or even this can be applied to a lot of things. It doesn't have to be clip art specific, it can be just about your life in general. But these are some things that have helped me. And again, because I've always been someone that loves like mindset training, mindset learning, I've really kind of just wanted to share those things. So things that I find really helpful. It might sound simple, but I'm just going to share them. So basically, I call them mindset resets, counteracting, connected with solution-based thinking. So there's three main pillars that I kind of use in combination together. So I'll go through that again. So we've got mindset resets, counteracting, and usually that really connects really nicely with solution-based thinking. So when I am in my mindset reset, basically what that is if you think of a big red button and you are going to reset something, you press that big red button and it resets. So you can even think of it as if you're turning your computer on and off. So I just kind of visualize this big red button, and whenever I'm feeling or thinking in my mind, I can't do this, I'm like, bang, reset that. What is the reset to that statement that I thought, or to that just random thought that popped into my head? So for example, if I thought, oh, I can't do this, I would press that reset button and I'd be like, I can't do this yet. or I can't do this right now, but I'm going to learn to do this. That is something that has helped me a lot, because it gives me the ability to kind of know that even though I'm not there yet, it's something that I can achieve. And I know that not everyone has a very naturally optimistic mind, and sometimes it's important to hear these kind of things to be like, okay, so that's how you sort of think about it. So when you are experiencing kind of thoughts that pop into your head and they're just kind of negative self-talk almost, you have to think, is that true? Is that something that I truly believe, or is that just my brain throwing something at me to think or to protect me, or just to... It's really just important to notice when you're saying those things in your mind to yourself, and to, as soon as you catch on, to think, oh, I'm thinking this thought, to reset and press that button. Using mindset resets are good, because once you click onto it and realize, oh, my brain's making something up here saying that I can't do something, you challenge your brain. You say, well, why? No, let's reset that. Let's reprogram my brain. Let's reprogram that. Let's reset it. And so along with mindset resets, I also like to use counteracting. So counteracting to me is like a curious child. So I've got mindset resets, which are my red button, and then this is more of an immediate thing. If I have like a thought that is like pushing out as very self-negative talk, reset that mindset reset. Then I have counteracting, which is like a curious child. If it's not just a statement, if something's got a bit more depth to it, I really think as if I was a curious child. You know how children, when they're young, they ask you so many questions, like why, and you have to try and kind of explain the answer again and again and again. It's like being this curious child when you're counteracting. So when you come out, if your head thinks of this thought, like for example, if your mind thought, my work's not good enough, then you could use the counteracting, act as a curious child and think like, why do I think that? Why is my work not good enough? And then paired with that as the curious child, what you can do is then go into your solution-based thinking. So if there is truly something that you want to work on with your clip art, for example, or whatever it is in life, you look at it objectively. How can you improve? So for example, if the reason why you don't think the work is good enough is because maybe your clip art is blurry, or your clip art is, the quality is not good, then you can think, okay, solution here, solution-based thinking, I need to find a way to make my clip art more crisper. So I need to do more research. Instead of thinking, oh, my work is just not good. It's not good quality. Like, it's about thinking as a curious child, well, why? And what do I need to do to fix it? Sometimes your mind will just come and say, my work's not good enough, because of possibly a childhood trigger, something that you remember from a past experience that's telling you that programming in your brain, it automatically defaults to that programming. So it's important to kind of use that counteracting when you are thinking those things, and also not just accepting that if the answer to my work is not good is just because, it's not a good enough answer. You need to find the reason as to why you think that. If it's just like, oh, my work's not good enough, why do you think that? Just because? It's not good enough. It's not just because. There's a reason why you think that, and you need to come to the whole picture to realize what it is that you actually are feeling and why you don't actually genuinely think that. So those are things just to keep in mind. Your mindset resets whenever a negative thought pops into your brain, to reset that. Try and reset it and try and catch onto it, because you'll notice that when this negative self-talk happens, if you don't pull up on it straight away, it stays and lingers. So if you don't reframe that, if you don't reset that button to say, hold on a minute, no, that's not right. Or hold on a minute, yes, I can do this. Or hold on a minute, reset, that I can't do it yet, It doesn't mean I can't do it, I just can't do it yet, so reset. So just try and keep that in mind when you are feeling that really strong, down, disheartened feeling, and just know that you can change the way that you view it, and that can change your whole perspective of it. So there are 3 key things that I really like to use: mindset resets, the counteracting, and that's coupled with the solution-based thinking. So they all help one another, and it's really something that do go hand in hand. So another thing to go with that, when you're thinking about creating clip art, or again, apply this to whatever context that you have in your own mind. I have like a little poem that I kind of made recently, but I feel like I've kind of had it in my head all along in a way, but I've kind of put it on paper and I've kind of put it in like a mini poem sort of thing. So I feel like I'm about to do like Dr. Seuss on you sort of thing. So whenever I kind of question myself and think like, why do I feel like I have the skills to be talking about this, or to even be like, or to be creating clip art or anything like that, anything that kind of comes in my way that I feel like I can't do, I then kind of bring in curious child mode, the counteracting, and I think like, well, why not me? I'm about to go Dr. Seuss on you, so this is my little poem. If not you, then who? If it's not gonna be you, then it will be someone new, so you might as well make the things that you do. So what I kind of want to say about that is basically, if it's not you, if you decide, okay, I can't do this, it's not gonna be you, it will be someone else. So if you feel like you have any sort of value to give to someone, if you have knowledge, skills, anything at all to bring to the table, then you might as well do that and bring it to the table, because if it's not going to be you, it'll be someone else, so it might as well be you. So I feel like with this, it's very profound, because if you really get that sense of, I can do it and I can bring something to the table that is different here, that is uniquely me, then you can really be unstoppable. A lot of things that get in the way is ourselves when it comes to things like this. And a lot of the time too, what is attached to these feelings of imposter syndrome is our ego, the way that we perceive ourselves and the way that we want others to perceive us. And we don't want to, you know, feel like we're failing. We don't want to have that uncomfortable feeling of, if I try something new and it fails, then I'm like a failure. And another thing is too, like, sometimes our brain just puts thoughts into our head to just shake us a little bit and to make us try and go the easier path, or to make us safe. I don't know about you, but sometimes my brain comes up with some random scenarios and I'm like, how did I even think of that? And so I have to like just shoo them away sometimes. And sometimes they're negative, sometimes they're just like completely wild, and that is normal. Like, your brain makes up things, certain situations, scenarios, things that could happen, things that won't happen, things that might happen, but there is no evidence of any of that truly happening. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Like, a lot of the time what stops us is our own self, and if we can get out of our own way and be like, oh, I'm the one stopping myself here, my brain is telling me all this thing why I shouldn't, giving me excuses, doing this, doing that, like I'm not good enough. Like, that is what is holding you back, and that's where trying to reframe your mind with the mindset resets, the counteracting, and the solution-based thinking is how you're gonna kind of get out of that. And another thing is to, like, that with imposter syndrome, I feel like a lot of people who do reach a really high amount of success, and I mean, it doesn't even have to be that, but a lot of the time we've had experiences throughout our life, through childhood, through just growing as humans, and there might be one certain experience that really affected us to our adulthood, and we realize that it's now like a trigger to us. So when we feel less than, or, you know, depending on how you grew up and depending on the support of your family, or depending, you know, how critical your parents were, that all comes into play, I feel like, with how we become as people. And I feel like sometimes certain people are more subjected to feeling imposter syndrome harder, because they they've gone through experiences, whether that be bullying, whether that just be a really rough time through growing up. You know, we've all been through some crappy times, and sometimes, you know, that programming that has been put into our head needs resetting. We need sometimes an upgrade. We need someone to kind of let us know that our thoughts can really change if we help them change. So when it comes to worthiness and feeling like, you know, am I good enough for this? Sometimes you will have those extra demons you have to tackle first before you can kind of move forward, and you realize, oh, this is just like unlocking a layer of yourself. It goes deeper than just thinking positively, if that makes sense. It goes deeper than that. It goes deeper than just the surface layer. It goes deeper into you as a human being, basically, to how you operate in the world and what you let, you know, dictate your life or like stop you or help you move forward is really something to consider as well. And so I'm going to give you the harsh reality of it too. As my star sign is Sagittarius, I tend to say things that are pretty honest, but they can come out quite blunt, and I don't mean to hurt by saying this, but if you are not starting because you feel like you're not good enough, think of it this way, in perspective, there is always going to be someone more creative, there's always going to be someone more talented, more better at something, there's going to be someone more skilled with more knowledge. We could literally play the more game forever. As humans, we are very complex as people, but the word more is something that we always crave. We are always looking for more. But when we finally come to realize that others may have all of that, but they can never be you, they will never ever be the person you are, then we can really appreciate our own uniqueness and realize what we are actually bringing to the table. They might be all of the things that I mentioned above. They might be more creative, more talented, more skilled, more better, more smarter, you know, more knowledgeable in areas than you. But they don't have your life experience, they don't have your skills, they don't have your education, they don't have your personality, they don't have your humor, they haven't learned the same lessons in life that you have, they don't have your creativity, they don't have your mind, and they don't have your perspective of life. So those things alone, by default, just by living in the world, make you unique, make you special, and make you someone that has something to give. And that goes, obviously, again, that's deeper than just creating clip art, but you bring to the table more than you realize, even just by being here on this earth. So we sort of get caught up a lot looking at others and thinking, you know, they've done this, they've done that, they've done this, and we forget about what we've actually truly been through and our experiences. And we've all had experiences that have been so different. There are no two human beings on this earth that have had the exact same experience of every second of their earth life. So when we realize we have a whole complexity to offer and give when we are starting a new project and just trying to do something, then you finally get to this point where you realize there will always be more better people out there than you, but they will never be you. And that's when you realize, because they can never be you, they will never bring to the table what you do or what you can. So that is one thing that I want to kind of just reaffirm with you guys. And I can attest to this too. Like, I never thought that I'd be kind of like earning money selling clip art a few years ago. I would never have thought that. Like, when I was teaching, that I never even thought that could even be a thing. So like I said, I'm still happy because although it's not monetarily, financially freedom or anything like that for me, it's the fact that I've shown up and I've actually created this when I thought I couldn't, when I didn't know if it was possible, when I, you know, faced those odds of like my own mental battles and then just showing up to the plate and figuring it out. And I use those techniques, I use those positive reframing, and I really believe mindset is the biggest component to help tackle imposter syndrome. And I feel like it's almost sort of normal, like a lot of people feel this way. Not everyone, but I would say like majority of people have felt this sometime in their life. And I feel like when you're creating new ventures and starting new things, it kind of can become a bit more apparent in that beginning phase. But one quote I really, really like, I think by Henry Ford, is whether you think you can or you can't, you are right. And I really like that because when you put it in perspective, if you think you can't, you can't. If you think you can, you will and you can. So I really feel like that's pretty empowering, that quote, and because it really puts that into perspective. Your mindset is that valuable as a tool for you to move forward and push through those moments where you're feeling a little bit like, I can't do this, you know, my work's sucky, no one will ever buy my stuff. No. And I've been surprised, I'll just say from my experience too, I have been quite surprised to be doing my trial and error on this journey and finding certain products that I've created sold and I didn't think they would. And so that tells me enough, like if it is valuable to someone, if it saves someone time, if it gives value to someone, then someone may potentially buy it, and they might just like your creativity, what you've given out to the world. We all don't like the same things in life. We don't all like the same food. We don't all like the same colors. So it's the same. Even if your clip art's more niche, there will be someone that likes that style. So it's important to know that because it's going to be unique to you. I feel like being unique is always going to be the best way, or being just you in general. By just being you, you're already unique. But I mean, like, you don't have to copy anyone to find success, I feel like, in that way. There are guidelines, of course, to kind of stick to when it's coming to creating work, and you want to make sure you put the effort into it. But you know, there are things that I have made and I have sold and I never ever thought that they would, and they have. So that's promising, and that's just some things to give you encouragement to say, if you're thinking that someone might not buy it, and you might think you wouldn't buy it, but the thing is, you're not necessarily your customer. So some things that I have made, I may have not purchased in my life, but someone else has found value in that they would. So just keep that in mind too, because you can be as a person, you can be your own worst critic. So just keep that in mind also. Another thing that goes along with my counteracting part that I mentioned as well is I really want you to think about when you are facing this imposter syndrome. This is a really good question I like to ask myself when I come to kind of big things in my life. And this I don't just use with just starting and making clip art online. It goes, all of these concepts go deeper than that, but it's just, this is like a really good base for the majority of the way that you think in life. So whatever you're facing in the imposter syndrome as a question or as a statement that you're kind of thinking towards yourself. So say for example, I can't create clip art because I'm not good enough. Think about it this way. Who would you be if you didn't feel that way? Who would you be if you did not feel that way? So I'll answer that question for you. I feel like as a person, because I've done this kind of exercise for myself. If I didn't feel the feelings of imposter syndrome, I would be someone that was confident. I'd be someone that was open to receiving. I'd be someone that knows my worth and my value. I'd be someone that was not shaken by wondering if I was good enough. I'd be open to learning, and I'd be open and okay with making mistakes. Those are things that I think about when mentally, where I come across a difficult thing where I'm like, can I genuinely do this? And then if I have feelings associated with that, like I ask myself that question and I really dig deep into that and think, who would I be? And I try my best to show up as the person of who I would be if I didn't have those feelings. Another thing that I feel like I've used a lot through my life, sometimes too, it is all about showing up, and sometimes you just have to fake it till you make it. I'm not saying you have to fake it through every little thing, but sometimes by just doing it, feeling scared, feeling like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to act confident, your body kind of goes along with that. And it's like when you're doing acting, almost, you feel so nervous and you feel so scared, but on the outside you're like calm and collected if you're an actor. We don't know how they feel inside, but from the outside they look amazing, but little did we know they were just, you know, so scared. So it's sometimes about fake it till you make it, sometimes just the Nike tick, just do it, and just some last kind of encouraging words that I like to kind of think about just to kind of help you on your way to kind of get you started. Basically, it's never too late to get started, and if you have good intentions, you are willing to work, you can literally punch or kick imposter syndrome to the curb. And it's okay when you're starting off any journey. If you start off a little messy, you start off a little bit wonky, we all started from zero. We all started from the ground. We all understand this process of crawling before we can walk. Now, I know there are some exceptions. Some babies they just literally don't crawl and they just walk. But for the majority of us, we're gonna crawl first before we walk. Another thing to remember is you are not your thoughts, but if you can get your thoughts on your side using those kind of techniques that I've kind of mentioned here, then you'll be able to win faster. Research enough to get you started, but don't overthink it to the point where imposter syndrome stops you. This is an important one now too. Perfect does not exist. So literally scrunch that up and chuck it out the window, because we are not living in this world now where we're thinking perfection is what we need. Perfect does not exist. It doesn't. So get that out of your head, and something is better than nothing. And we can always improve on everything to get better. So just take that out of your head if you're like, I need this to be perfect. No, you don't. You don't need this to be perfect. You need it to be good. You need it to be well done, but you do not need it to be perfect. So don't let that, especially if you have tendencies of being a very perfectionist type of person, it's okay to surrender to not having to be perfect. Now, I'm not trying to mix that with just be careless. Definitely do your due diligence with everything that you do, but just know if that perfectionism is stopping you from creating something, then it's stopping someone from possibly getting value out of that just because you felt like that needed to be perfect when it might not even had really mattered if that slight little thing was off. It's okay to be imperfect. And another thing is, it's okay to fall off the mindset bandwagon. This happens to me from time to time, where I go through phases where I'm like really strong mentally, and then some days I'm just like, wow, I've fallen off that bandwagon, I've fallen off the horse. My mental space is just like giving me some self-negative talk right now, and it's just piling it on, and I have to keep on trying to reset, and sometimes it's harder than other days to do it, but I always make the effort to try, because that is what gets me through. That's what I feel like is very beneficial, because I see it in two ways. I can think negatively about it, and I can be like, well, yeah, I'm not good enough, and that will never make me grow. Or I can think, yes, I can't do it yet, but I can do it. I can learn how to do it, and I can get better at doing that, and then I will be good. And then I can learn more. And that's how I think of it. I will grow this way. I will not grow if I choose that path. And that is a choice that only you can make. No one else, no matter how many things you listen to, no matter, whatever anyone else says, they can give you all the advice. You can listen to this and be like, oh, I feel inspired. But unless you show up for yourself and actually take that accountability, it will not happen. And you really need to try your best to know that inside you are needing to do that inner work, that inner thought process work to really reframe, rewire what's going on up here first. And that can really help make major changes. And another thing too is, when you are faced with a comparison trap, the only person that you need to impress, doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, the only person that you need to impress is your 5-year-old self and your 80-year-old self. This life is too short to worry about the little intricacies of what someone said about you, what they think about you. If you know that you are coming from good intentions and you're trying to help and give light to the world, aka your creativity, your artwork, your joy, whatever that is for you that you're giving, don't let anyone else kind of stop you in your path. Like I said, your 5-year-old self needs to look at you and think, I'm so proud of her, and your 80-year-old self needs to look back and say, I tried and that was amazing, or I'm so glad that I did that, or I didn't regret doing anything because I tried and I made the effort. They're the only two people that you need to impress. And with that too, I really feel like, just as a personal thing, I feel like creativity makes this world go round. Without creativity, we wouldn't have inventions, we wouldn't have all the different beautiful things that we have on the earth today. And of course, as someone who is unique, when you have all your own different experiences of life, you can come to the table with something else that someone doesn't have. And it will just be in that little bit different kind of way because it's from you. No one can give what you give because it's your hands doing it, it's you creating, it's you showing up to do that, if you are the person behind the creation, of course. But regardless, it's you there showing up, and the world needs your work. The world, don't think it's oversaturated. The world needs you. It needs your work. It's almost like this energy exchange. Everyone is creative in their own way, and expression, like, not only is creativity good for the human soul, but I just feel like on an energetic level, it's also good to give to the world something. Even if you don't receive monetary value from that, you might get something else, whether that be enjoyment, fulfillment, like feeling proud of yourself, whatever that might be, just like loving what you do. That's still something. Money doesn't always have to be the biggest motivator. Of course, it's one of the biggest ones. And of course, I don't want to be like, you know, make things for free. No, no, no. Like, we've got to eat. You've got to eat. We're not here about starving artist type of vibe. We're not there to do that. But what I'm trying to say is basically, you know, the world needs your work and the money will come. Just show up for yourself. Give it a go, and do not let imposter syndrome stop you in your tracks. And lastly, everything takes time. So do not feel disheartened if you feel like you're not getting anywhere in the beginning, or if there's little to no progress in regards to monetary value. Continue to show up, continue to release products or release creative works that you're proud of and that you're happy of and that are unique to you. Just keep going, keep showing up, because let me tell you, a lot of what we see online, we feel like it's instantaneous, and then we get disheartened when we try it out and it doesn't happen for us that instantaneously. So just know it really does take a while to build a house. So you need to like build this brick by brick, but if you just stop when it's halfway built, you don't get the full house. So it's really about you, just when it's hard, rain, hail, shine, just showing up, building your house brick by brick. And so yeah, so just don't feel disheartened and just keep on going, and the money will show up when it's supposed to. Of course, there are techniques and tips and tricks that people will offer, but I feel like if you are providing value and you know that it's a good thing that you're trying to offer to the world, then you will figure out a way to make that work for you. And with that said, a lot of the time it's literally just about showing up. And on a digital online perspective, literally showing up and providing content and providing clip art or whatever, wherever you're kind of selling any of your work, consistency is literally one of the biggest keys, because when they have algorithms that, I guess, pinpoint and track if someone's consistent with their work, they're going to have something in the algorithm to kind of feel like, okay, this person is making the effort. So that is just all I've got to say. This is your sign. This is your sign to punch, kick, slam dunk, imposter syndrome in the face, and get that big blue blob out of here. We don't want him in our life. Goodbye. Catch you later. And if he tries to come back for a sleepover, say he's not welcome. He is not welcome up in here. So anyways, I hope my ramblings might have helped you in some way, and I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. Again, when I started this YouTube channel, I had imposter syndrome too, because I didn't think I was going to be able to get to the 1,000 subscribers and, you know, get monetized on YouTube. But I showed up, I tried, I made the effort, and I am just grateful to say that because I did that, you know, I feel like all the things that I went through using those mindset tricks or mindset shifts really helped me to continue showing up. Because let me say, it's not easy to do this. It's not easy to just put yourself out there for other people to judge you and for other people to look at the things that you're doing. So kudos to you if you do get on your start on your journey. I really wish you well, and I wish you good luck, and I know that you can do a good job. Just commit to yourself, have the accountability, and know that imposter syndrome needs to be kicked in the face, and it just needs to get out of here. and hopefully you can do that, and if you do, let me know and I'm cheering you on. Alrighties, thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to go check out any of my other videos and I will see you in my next video. Adios!